claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
If a generalized black woman is doing this and being this, that is that is irresponsible.
No,
when you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind
showing
back.
me,
Black and proud. Claim you're African, black and proud.
I think that if
when you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
a page,
what is the status of people
Claim you're
with half
African, black and proud. I'm telling you. When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing, because
Black and proud. Claim you're African, black and
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
Embrace
forward
it.
to black men
Become a
being the
part of it.
masters, being
Embrace
in
it.
control. We
Become a part of it.
Only
Embrace it.
That those one of the
Become a
best
part
stories
of
I've
it.
ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim you're
have
African, you're going to
mastered
get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes
Black
place.
and
You've
proud.
been
Claim
misled
you're
by
African,
leadership,
black
for
and
instance,
proud.
that
I'm telling
thinking you can consume.
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back. Black and proud. Claim you're African. Black and proud. I'm telling you.
Peace and power, family. Dr. Daw back in the building, family. I want to thank you all for joining me in Daw's Lecture Hall, where we take an African-centered approach to education, which means, in short, that you are part of the process. So, family, as you come in, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you stay along for the ride. As you know, I typically don't go quickly. I kind of try to build up the case. So again, family, thanks for joining me. Make sure you thumb up the video. Today's conversation. Yeah. It's been a lot going on in the community. Questions about leadership. I think pivotal questions and pivotal conversation. I want to be really clear that I enjoy conversation. I enjoy the dialogical process. I enjoy the dialectic or the dialectical process that comes about in community discussion. I appreciate it, family. I see brother Real Truth to Power says no. He didn't greet me, but he says no. I don't know. No, he says no. There's a lot of O's on there. Peace and power to President Everett Winchester in the building. So yeah, come on for the ride, family. Let's have a conversation today. I put together a few slides for us, and the conversation has been very interesting. Peace, brother Baba Ori in the building. You know what I mean? Peace to President Everett in the building. Let's have this conversation. So again, no black leaders. We don't need black leaders. Now, of course, somebody's been telling me I'm doing straw mans. I just saw something just a few minutes ago. I have no idea what is going on and what they're saying when they say, Dr. Daw, you are pulling out straw mans. I'm not pulling out straw mans. These are 2 points of contention that I've seen in our community. Let me know if you can hear me, family, what I sound like. Do I sound clear? What's up? What's up, Dr. The B, Shavers Jr. in the building? Let's have this conversation, family. So again, no black leaders. No, that's what I've been hearing. It ain't no straw man going on. Let's take your seat a bit and get yourself comfortable. Let's have a conversation. This is your brother. You ain't got to feel threatened. This is just welcome into Daw's Lecture Hall. You know what I mean? The chat board is Daw's Lecture Hall. Be More Chick said, yes, you are clear. Thank you very much, Be More Chick. So again, this ain't no simple conversations. And one thing, if you're around Daw, you're going to understand that we just can't say simple things out of our mouths like no black leaders. We don't have any black leaders. And then there's the other conversation. It ain't no straw man. The other conversation that I've had previous to this conversation is this idea that we don't need black leaders. And again, as always, with Daw is a psychosocial conceptualization Shabaka says, one love, peace and power, unity, brother Asa. I'm here to participate and learn. We must organize and unite worldwide. Pan-Africanism, the key to Black power. All right, I appreciate that, family. I appreciate those in the building. Make sure you thumb up the video, hype up the video, and make sure you participate in today's class. This is just a remedial, get us caught up a little bit type of, maybe as a 101. Maybe we'll figure that out later. We'll do this collectively as I'm an African Senate brother. So what you will realize is that we got to do this thing collectively. As one of my mentors say, or Jagna say, let's do this together. Ori Shabazz said, the straw men, you say no Black leaders. We don't need Black leaders. They are your straw men. No, Ori, I'm trying to keep it a buck. These straw men to what? This is the conversation that is happening in our community. Now, what I would say is don't switch it up now. Let's have the conversation. Chill out, drink some tea, sip on a little lavender or sip on some chamomile tea or sip on some things, you know what I mean? Just sip on it. I'm your brother. You know what I mean? Ain't no reason. I don't have no reason for straw mans. I don't even know what you mean by straw man. But what I realize is I'm not trying to win a debate. In fact, I take to some degree, I take some level of insult to that. But I understand you don't mean any harm because I have no reason to throw in information to just win a debate. It's about us and uplifting our community. It has nothing that look, my ego is not that small or uncontrolled where I have to throw in things to make my point and try to just win the debate. It ain't about winning the debate. It's about facts. It's about nuance. It's about specificity. It's about I am a scholar. But again, when I say I'm a scholar, understand that I bring a plethora of ancestral scholars with me. Understand that I don't only bring ancestral scholars with me, I bring my brothers and sisters that are here with me today. Understand it is the job of us. Understand it is the job of us, those here today, to carry forward the work of our ancestors and our elders. And I am just one of many that's sitting in the seat to carry those things forward. I was talking to my dear brother the other day, and I was sharing with him something that I heard Dr. Wade Nobles and Dr. Naim Akbar say. They said it is for the next generation to come behind us and to challenge, critique, uplift, build upon that which we laid down. They said when we got into this African Senate thing, this African psychology thing, all this, and yes, is about psychology, family, because we're talking about leadership and the qualities therefore. We are speaking about the leadership qualities and the qualities thereof. And those operate in a psychological realm. No, Brother Ori, we know we have leadership. No, don't switch it up now because look, I was going to take it easy on you. You know what I mean? But look, that ain't what the conversation in the street is. That ain't what I'm reading. That ain't what I'm hearing out of people's mouths. Now they want to say, oh, we got leadership, of course. No, that wasn't the argument. The argument is, and I hear it daily, not just from you, Bob Ori. I'm not just from you, from many of us. And if we don't mean it, we got to change what we say because it impacts our minds. It impacts our children's minds. It impacts our community's mind. So if you don't mean it, don't say it. If you don't mean it, don't say it. Be clear. We have to use more specificity. I know it's easy to say that. I know it's easy to say we don't have leaders. And sometimes I understand where it's coming from. It comes from a place that say, I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I feel lost. And then you bring out and you bring, because look, look, let's just get into this, family. Let's just get into this. Let me ground myself in our Njia oath. I walk in my yacht with balance, truth, and divine alignment. I rise with discipline. I heal with courage. I heal with courage. I give my gifts to the community. I give my gifts to the community. Ancestors, walk with me. Spirit, rise in me. Divine, guide me. We walk in my yacht with balance, truth, and divine alignment. We rise with discipline. We heal with courage. We collectively give our gifts to the community. Ancestors, walk with us. Spirit, rise in us. And divine, guide us. So family, Dr. Daw want to get some things started right and get some things started quickly. We're going to get some things started right, and we're going to get some things started quickly. So what I have here, family, is some text threads and some messenger threads. I redacted the names, although it's not that essential, but I just thought I would do it just to take the energy off of the people per se and to really focus in on the conversation. So that's what I did. So I want to submit to you what I've been seeing in community threads. There's this absence of leadership claim that's going on. We can't deny it's happening. It's right here before you. My dear brother put out a powerful presentation last week speaking about where are the leaders? Do we have leaders? And people responded. I would also say people reacted because we are people that have been through so much. We've been through so much that it actually orients the way that we see things, or it conceptualizes things. And we got to be real with that. And when we've been through trauma, it fragments our ability to see nuance. It fragments our capability of seeing things on a spectrum. When we've been through the type of trauma we've been through, the hurt, the pain, historical trauma, family, we begin to see things in black and white. So family, this is what some of the things I want to read to you real quickly. So on this particular post, I'm just going to go over them. There's no special order, although some were in order. There exists no leadership was the response, and no effective leadership in our black communities throughout America. This is a response. Colonization remains in effect. White supremacy influenced black communities entirely. Colonization doesn't allow broad-scale effective African leadership, period. Black leadership, generally speaking, does not exist in reality in any meaningful way. This other one says, what happened to trust between black communities and their leadership? And who do we really listen to now? Someone else responded, I think there's scattered trust, but I think we trust our individual selves primarily and almost exclusively. Next question might be, who deserves to trust Who deserves the trust of the Black community? These are great questions. It goes on. This person right here said, I will certainly tune in to your program on Tuesday, but I think your position on Black leadership is already clear. I believe your position is effective Black leadership exists. No, that's the straw man. I'm clearly saying that Black leadership exists. We can talk about effective later, but the question has been posed, does Black leadership exist? The person says, I know otherwise. Doctor, looking forward to your program Tuesday. Always peace, Dr. Winkler. This person says, I think colonization of Africans is important to understand. Somebody else says, Farrakhan is not now, nor has he ever been a leader in our community. He leads the NOI. We are our own leaders, this person says, or we're a body void leadership. He says, so either we are our own leaders or we are body void leadership, a body without a head. This person says, every representative must be, in my opinion, in tune with Black people, controlling the communities, and African Americans must understand and appreciate relationship with Africa. So these was some of the things that have been said. I got something to go a little more direct. This next one says, hi, I didn't get to speak last night, but we don't have any leaders. Because if we did, they would be leading us now. Specifically now with the current administration. Let me back up. It says, hi, I didn't get to speak last night, but we don't have any leaders. Because if we did, they wouldn't be leading us now. Specifically now with the current administration, so that makes us the leaders. So that makes us the leaders. We are at the point where we have to be accountable and hold them accountable. But first, we must vote to take control and then hold them accountable. Now, we got all types of ideas. What qualifies someone as a leader? We have all types of, and again, the conversation, family. Let's not get off track. There are statements that says we don't have leaders or we are all the leaders. And in fact, there's been conversation that says we don't need leaders. This ain't the first time I talked about this. So again, this ain't about any one person. I got what you, I hear you. Just, simmer down. It ain't about you. It's about us. I appreciate it. It ain't about you. But somebody gave me, brother, Mr. K gave super track, said African-American Leadership by Ronald Walters. All right. The Pan-African Library is in the building, suggesting a read. So again, I'm just getting started, fam. I'm just trying to get you some of the talk on the thread. It says, so that makes us leaders. We are at the point where we have to be accountable to them and hold them accountable. I agree with that. But first, we must vote to take control and then hold them accountable. I don't know what that really means, but I think that they're in the ballpark somewhere. Now, it's a little convoluted, if you must ask me, the statement itself, holistically. If we have them, they are not leading the collective. That's somebody else. Now, I think I know who that was. I got it all redacted here, but I think I know who that was. But this person says, feds destroy Black leadership. Read the goals of J. Edgar Hoover, aka FBI, aka USA governments have for Black communities surrounding Black leadership. Also, Kwesi Mfume's point are elected officials, leaders. And for the many References. Farrakhan is not now, nor has he ever been a leader of the community he leads. So this person, right, it might be the same person who's over there, or maybe they just agreeing with the person over there. So then he also says we are our own leaders, or we're a body. So it's the same. Actually, it's the same. It's a bit of a remix of the same post that I read earlier, but nonetheless, so it gets a little bit more interesting for me when we. So. Oh God. Am I missing one? Oh man, I'm missing one. What happened to it? Hold on, y'all. I gotta do this, y'all. I can't. Okay, hold on. Let me see. I'm missing one. Oh no, here you go. All right, I can use it. So this one here says, peace, bro. After listening to Doc is me. I didn't redact myself, I want to reiterate this point. Now, I was talking to someone on a program last week, and what this person says is there exists no. Can y'all look at that and tell me the N in the O is capitalized, and what is that trying to emphasize? No leadership and no effective leadership in our Black communities throughout America. No romance with this. The conditions of our communities dictates effective leadership is voided in Black communities. Now, this sounds like it's saying two things. It says, one, there exists no leadership and no effective leadership. It says no romance with this. The condition of our communities dictate effective leadership is voided in Black communities. Voided. Effective leadership, no leadership. It's a little bit of it's a little convoluted. Every Black person who attempts to answer this question will answer correctly from their perspectives and experience. Now, this is after saying there was none, and as a response of my conversation. So then they kind of went into effective leadership. Neely Fuller says there were all in. Neely Fuller says, this is what this person says here. It says, Neely Fuller says, we're all imprisoned at different levels. Our choice is consequently limited, and the goal remains getting out of our own communities. Our choices consequently limited, and the goal remains the same, getting out of our own communities. Colonization remains in effect. We have no idea where we are on the colonization spectrum. Is colonization almost over? Is it over, or is colonization still in the beginning stages? Yet, on another level, we influence ourselves the most in our communities. Each home may have different. P.S. Are you watching Foster? Okay, don't worry about that. That's a whole different type of situation. But I want to see. Let me see. Let's see what we got here. So it says here. Let me just read this. So this person says, "Greetings," speaking to me. It continues when I put this post up that I was going to be having this actual broadcast today. The person said, he said, "Greetings. It continues to behoove me how we oftentimes try to critique through the pigeonhole of other African people who do not share exact views on every discussion, no variance, no diversity, no tolerance, no respect." This is on a post that I put up saying I'm going to have this show today. Now, I have no idea why the person felt this way, because I want to talk about it. And because I put on there, we have no leaders, and we have, let's just finish reading. Of course, now they're saying, of course, African Americans need leadership. That's the whole point. Let us not apply the straw man in this discussion. Again, so it says here, Of course, African Americans need leadership. That's the whole point. Let us not apply the straw. What is this person talking about? Why? Where are they getting this idea from that I'm applying a straw man? Okay, let's see what they say. And I recognize the possibility that many Black communities might have some form of effective leadership, because this is what I said on the show when I was saying, no, we have leadership. So now they're saying, okay, they're evolving, and we're going to continue to evolve, hopefully, because that's not what they were saying initially. But again, they're saying there's some straw man here. There's no straw man here. I have no reason to just be trying to win an argument, but I do see the evolution that's going on inside of you and the way that you're communicating. And that's cool. And I appreciate that, because that's my whole goal, is to have clearer language. We have to be more clear. When you say no, and then you start to evolve it to effective and all that, okay, cool. That's letting me know there's some evolution going on here. But the clear no, we have no leadership, is something different. And I'm going to tell you where the conflation comes in. I'm going to show you why and where where I assumed the opinion was coming from a little bit later. We're coming. It says, and I recognize the possibility that many Black communities might have some form of effective leadership, or leadership in general, which might not be effective. Nevertheless, my position remains Black leadership, generally speaking, does not exist in any meaningful way. Apparently, locally and worldwide, colonization doesn't allow broad-scale effective American leadership, period. Now they're going to broad scale effective leadership, period. Right? So it changes. That's cool. So I asked this individual after they hit me up. They said, peace, doctor. I watched the entire, because I said, this is not a straw man, y'all. This is not a straw man. I've had this conversation with a brother already. And it says that I watched the entire podcast of you and Brother Imhotep. It was 100%. It was before our discussion on Black leadership. Yes. Again, no straw man. This conversation was already ongoing. So to continue to say that someone is bringing a straw man is an insult. Now, who does it sound like can't disagree? And it's the same person. The one person that I'm sharing here mostly on this particular page is saying that I'm putting out a straw man and saying that people are critiquing through pigeonholes because they don't agree on every point. I love not to agree on every point because I want us to be better. I don't do this to win debates. Like, that's an insult. I don't do this to win debates or sound like I know what I'm talking about. Help educate me, because my point and my question was to this particular individual was, how do you define leadership? How do you measure leadership? And let's talk about that. And then he said, let me get back to you. So he went into the crates a little bit, and hence I got this particular response. And I say, look, check this out. It's no straw man. Me and Bobby Imhotep already talked about this before, months ago. Months ago. And Shabaka says here, stop fighting, stop fussing and fighting. It's time for unity and organization. I would suggest go and check out, I don't know if you saw it the other day, Shabaka, but go and check out the broadcast I did with Bob Imhotep and we spoke about unity on there, you know, what that looks like and what it looks like on a more collective level. But nonetheless, family, make sure you like this video, you share this video. Stay with me. We're getting somewhere, family. Stay with me. So again, and I think when I'm thinking about what Shabaka's saying here, I want to be really clear that as I spoke about the other day with Bobby Imhotep, I'm not saying you're saying it, Shabaka, but I think it's very clear that we must understand that we must be able to disagree. We must be able to work through these things dialectically, dialogically. We must be able to do these things. We must be able to disagree, and that not being mistaken as fussing and fighting. And even like to some degree, there has to be some, if you want to call it fighting. I mean, I get it, but it's not that simple. We have to have when I say, I'm hoping when you operationalize what fussing and fighting is, you mean in the just trying to kill each other, just trying to tear each other apart, not the process of really dialoguing or looking at things in a way that help us see better through dialogue. I'm hoping that's not what you're saying, because we do have to. And again, this individual said it's not about theory. It's all about theory. I would argue that it's about theory, and even their very responses to me is coming through their theoretical basis. It's coming from their theoretical basis, and I'm going to show you why I say this later. It's coming up right now. It says, "Peace, doctor. I watched the entire podcast of you and Brother Imhotep. It was 100%. It was before our discussion of Black leadership. I fully appreciated this discourse. I would imagine you are familiar with Dr. Amos Wilson on the crisis of the Black leadership." Absolutely. Available on YouTube. And the attached Dr. Neely Fuller, who are the leaders in the Black communities. Absolutely. Very much familiar with these two warrior scholars. It says here, for June 2026, with all our personal business and academic accomplishments and our interests, perhaps it's time to examine and gauge where we are on the European colonization of Africans timeline. Are we in the embryonic stage of UCAT? Are we at the end, or are we somewhere in the middle? June 2026, we're being dominated by UCAT. So I get what this person is saying. There's a difference between measuring a thing and where we are along the spectrum and whether or not we have leadership. That is not to ask where we are along the spectrum of sovereignty, in other words, is not the same as asking whether or not we have quality leadership. That's a very different construct. And I think it's very problematic to our minds when we look at things and conflate things like that. In other words, the results have to be already had in order to have leadership. That's an error in social science. And I'm saying that when we are talking, all of us who are having these discussions are operating as social scientists. Let's keep that clear. So when you are talking about a thing, you're talking about measuring a thing, you're talking about measuring something that, now I'm gonna have to ask you, how do you measure that and where we are? And that there has to be some level of, let's say, projection or forecast is a better word about where we are along that spectrum. And then you have to have some qualities or some evidence, some things that evidence how far we are along. So to simply just throw it out there like that would be non-social, scientifically strong. We have to have more than just saying how we along this particular process or what have you. We have to do better than that. So again, and that does not measure whether or not we have quality leadership. That is different. That is saying where we are with our leadership in accomplishing what we call liberation. Don't conflate them. That is a different thing. And then we have to also be very smart when we are thinking about our goals. And what I mean about smart, I'm talking about using smart goals or what have you, or something like it. We have to be specific. When you're talking about where we are, we have to be very specific about what that is and what we're trying to accomplish. We have to be able to measure it, right? It has to be achievable, and that's a problem right there. Many times we are measuring us against things that are not necessarily achievable at that very moment. So we'll never, ever meet the goals or the objectives if we are setting ourselves up to measure ourselves and our success as African sovereignty or freedom or the ability. You're going to hear some things that this brother sent me from Neely Fuller, which I think is absolutely warrants some critique. And I think that it's kind of devastating. It's kind of problematic. And I see where the mindset is coming from and saying which leads one to say we don't have leadership, because what we are doing is we're either frustrated or we're repeating things that other people say. And it's okay, because that's your framework. It ain't mine. You can repeat and utilize whatever theories that you're using. And in fact, again, we keep coming against theories. And what Neely Fuller brought before us was nothing but a theory. I'm not saying the theory didn't have any utility. It did. But there are very questionable aspects of his theory. Again, I'm going to go back. Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Naim Akbar, Dr. Wade Nobles, hold up. Yeah, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Akbar in this particular case, said that it is for us to look back, the next generation to look back and critique and change. They said we may have had it wrong because we started this so long ago. We had nothing. We were building off from nothingness. So it will be for the next generation to take this work on and correct some things. And I'm suggesting, I maintain and argue that we have to really look at what Neely Fuller said. There's some wonderful things, especially about how intertwined racism is in every aspect of our dealings, is really, really powerful. And I think we don't understand that enough. But this idea about leadership, I challenge. And I don't think it serves us psychologically, socially. It doesn't serve us mentally. It does not serve our ability to accomplish things. It does not motivate us. In fact, it's not real. It's not accurate. And it doesn't allow us to identify leaders that are before us. It doesn't allow us to identify those leaders, because I'm arguing that we have leadership. It does. And there's a difference between achieving sovereignty and having leadership. I would argue that part of the pitfall of obtaining that sovereignty is the very fact that you say we don't have leaders, that we have not identified leaders, because in this particular traumatic stage we find ourselves in 2026 has us saying things like we have no leaders, we're all leaders, and all these type of things, which makes it more difficult for leaders, those who have the qualities of leadership in our communities, to actually accomplish what they will, because there's a mindset that says we don't have leaders. There's a mindset that says we don't have local leaders. There's a mindset that says we don't have national leaders, but it doesn't take more than a Google search to tell you that we have leadership on all these levels. Now, effectiveness is a different thing, but we first point of order is to identify that we have these things. It's to identify we have these things. It's very essential. I often have given the example of Sojourner Douglas College. It used to bother me when I heard people say we don't have institutions. It's the same mindset. Now, what you mean is we need more institutions. We need to evolve the institutions. We need to empower the institutions. But to say we don't have institutions when we have many is problematic, because it has people going out and reinventing the wheel rather than supporting that which we already have. So when Sojourner Douglas College no longer exists, we acting like it never existed. There was a blueprint there. There was a model there. There's a blueprint and a model there. And there's lessons to learn from their experiences. But if we act like we never had or we don't have, that is problematic to our progress. So what I'm asking for is specificity and clarity and greater articulation of what we're saying. And again, you don't have to agree with me at all. Look, I don't have a problem with you not agreeing with me. You're just not going to stop me from saying what I got to say. You can disagree all day, but I will back it up past emotions. See, again, it's not about emotion. I walk in my yacht with balanced truth and divine alignment. I rise with discipline. I'm not trying to hurt my brothers and sisters. I'm trying to uplift my brothers and sisters. So again, this is a lesson. This is in Dawes Lecture Hall. Family, like the video, share the video. Let's get the numbers up. This is Dawes Lecture Hall. That means we communicate together. Let's see what brother, let's see what we got here. Respect what you are doing, Doc. You have accepted the role. Shabaka says, respect for what you are doing, Doc. You have accepted the role of leadership. We must find those who are true and serious. I couldn't agree more. Before that, Shabaka says, contradiction brings progress. We must break the contradictions. There's a black leadership contradiction. We must unite. Ashe. Shabaka also says we have a responsibility to the next generation. We must not be afraid of leaders. We need strong leadership. And there is something strong that you're saying here that is very pivotal in this conceptualization, Shabaka, is that part of the reason why we say, and I'm saying collective, this is not any one individual, is why we struggle with the idea that we have leadership and quality leadership is part of our trauma. And trauma, as I always say, the most essential core aspect of it on a psychological, psychosocial, physical level is that you can't trust. You struggle to trust. And we have to be really real that we've been used. And lots of times we gravitate towards those quote unquote people we thought were leaders, and they hurt us because of our trauma. They used us and abused us. You know what I mean? And then those that are honest, something about an honest person makes people uncomfortable. Something about a person that you say you want a straightforward person, but then you say they doing straw man. Look, I'm straightforward. There's no straw man here. There's no straw man here. I am who I am. I promise you that. I don't do those things. I love us. I have no reason. To me, I take exception again to the idea that I'm pulling straws or whatever the heck. No, it's no reason. I'm not trying to debate you in a way that I have to win. Please bring me the information. Bring me some clarity. I am saying that we must respect those who actually are carrying forth the legacy of our leaders, ancestral and elders. I'll keep going back to it. Dr. Nobles and Dr. Akbar said, what? These are just one example. One example. Paulo Freire speaks about this idea of a teacher teaches herself out of the position. Dr. Mary Stanton, beautiful co-founder of Sojourner Douglas, spoke to the need for teachers and leaders to teach themselves out of position for the next generation. So again, I'm not coming here because this one said that, and this one said that, and that one said that. Now, I also want to be clear that everybody that we find in these conscious spaces don't have an African-centered type of analysis. And I will argue, I posit, I maintain that you can have all the revolutionary or all the theory, but if it's void, this African-centered, I'm talking about real African-centered, Amos Wilson African-centered, Dr. Clark African-centered type of analysis, Dr. Remember I Need type of analysis, I have to deal with people, and again, another, and see, and we shouldn't stop there. I have to say, my dear brother Baba Imhotep type of analysis, because it's so hard for us to identify leadership right before us. And we must do that. And I think that to some degree, that's part of the problem, because we don't identify each other as leaders. We have not identified ourselves as leaders. Sometimes from not trying to be seen as someone thinking you do all this and all of that. But again, as Bob Imhotep said in one of the conversations we had before, you know who all the people gravitate towards? They gravitate towards those frauds who pushes their chests out. For the authentic people, we also have to speak what is real, what is true. I must lift up the brothers and sisters as leaders of a beautiful struggle. I must lift up Tindaya. I must lift up Otis Williams inside of academia doing great work, Dr. Otis Williams. I must lift up lots of people who are going there with these African-centered analysis, understandings, but also revolutionary Pan-Africanism approach or Pan-Africanist approach. There's many more that I can speak to. We have to lift up those who are doing great work in our communities that are actually operating within even academia, including myself, where we bring our scholars that don't necessarily have the credentials to do work with our community, to do work with those who are going to get higher, these advanced degrees, those who are fighting back against the system on all levels, because it's not popular to do some of these things. And this is part of the fight. You can lose your job. You can get kicked out. The students don't like it. I remember Dr. Marion Stanton when she was bringing her real African-centered perspective when she was living. She was in constant dialogical processes with the students, especially our sisters. It wasn't comfortable for them. And this is one thing that Dr. Amos Wilson said. Dr. Amos Wilson said, if you are in a social science class, and I'm saying this is a social science class because we have to be really clear. When we're entering these conversations, we're not entering your opinions and feelings. Chances are, if you are not uncomfortable, frustrated, then the professor is not doing what he or she is supposed to do to bring about liberation, African consciousness. So it's not about comfort. It's about understanding there will be discomfort, disagreement in a dialectical process that strengthens us. I keep using the word because it's really important, because we misunderstand and we confuse comfort for healing, or we confuse people who are arguing points, not people, as problematic. I argue points. When I hear points that disserve us and deposits in our minds, when it deposits in our minds ideas that won't serve us, I have to call it out. And this idea that we don't have Black leadership, whether or not you clean it up or whether or not you say something else in the same sentence, we have to be more clear, because we do have Black leadership. And the idea that we don't need Black leaders is also, if not more indicative that a person is struggling from trauma. I don't know what to say. It's clear to me. I take on the role as one of the many leaders that we speak about. I'm not. Look, I'm not acting like I don't. I got too much quality and too much. I have too much quality to sit back and act like I don't. I know too many brothers and sisters that got too much quality to act like they don't. And that's what I was saying. What Brother Bob Imhotep said. He said, "Look, you're talking to me." He said, "Look, bro, you modest. Ain't no time for you to be modest because you have humility, but modesty won't help us." And that's and I get what he's saying. My cousin Papa Perspective says facts over feelings. I say facts and feelings. That's that African-centered approach, that both and approach. So let's see. I think I saw some other comments. This discussion is a unity talk. We're coming together based on this discussion. I agree, Baba Ori. Mr. K says it's a self-defeatist mindset due to collateral damage of trauma. I say that is absolutely on 100. We cannot keep starting all over again. Absolute Shabaka, all over again. We must have organization and unity to decide what we're going to struggle for. Absolutely. If we continue to act like and say things and we don't know how much trauma, how much damage it causes. So you understand? That's the only reason I'm having this discussion, because I understand the damage it causes, the deposits it makes in our brothers and sisters' minds, the way that it wires, the way that they see and experience and engage with the world. We have to be careful and more responsible. I would argue more responsible. And again, we don't understand how these things impact, but I study the mind and the behind and its connection. I'll be honest, Dr. Dennis, some black folks are so traumatized that they are spiritually damaged goods. Dr. The B says leaders take initiative. You take initiative. You've proven to be one of many leaders. I appreciate that, so that's how and I appreciate what Brother Shavers is saying here, because again, leadership, we have to be able to qualify and even quantify what it is to be a leader. To just say we do or we don't is problematic. But let me get past some of this. I think I had some other things on this slide, but I'll skip past that for the sake of time. I think I made my point with that. But I want to go and show you where I think some of the mindset comes from, and it's okay, but we have to do. I just let's just make it happen.
Listen, if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is,
okay, if you don't understand white supremacy
and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Now, sometimes,
absolutely, I agree with that.
People say, well, you mean everything that I understand will confuse me if I don't understand racism? Yes, because racism is the dominant political and religious motivating force among the people of the planet in all 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. That covers just about everything that any person, minute by minute, might be doing or engaged in any time of day or night, anywhere on the planet.
When you ask who are the leaders of black people, what's the truth? Yes, all of the leaders of black people are white. Now, what we call leaders are spokespersons.
So again, the individual who you saw kind of like saying I was doing a straw man, and who sent me the inboxes and said that they, kind of evolved from we don't have leaders to we don't have effective leaders, but still capital N-O, no leaders, sent me this. And my assumption is this is part of the frame that he uses and part of the reason why he says it.
I am a spokesperson. What?
So this is supposed to be like a some bringing Neely Fuller's ideas and theories into like more of an animated type of I guess piece.
Is a black spokesperson, a person who speaks. In other words, here's a mic, here's a podium. I walk around up here and I stand here and I speak. I don't produce anything. The clothes that I'm wearing and whatnot, they have a source. You know where it is.
So again, according to this particular clip sent to me by the dear brother, this person sent me this clip, and Neely Fuller is saying that there's no leaders, we just have spokespersons, right? So I'm assuming this is where his conceptual frame is coming from. This is what I thought initially, but then they sent me this, so it kind of, to some degree, supports my conceptualization that the person was more like into more of coming from Baba Neely Fuller's ancestor, Neely Fuller's framework. Neely Fuller says here that he himself is only a spokesperson, right? He talks. We don't have, he says we have spokespeople. Our leaders, according to Neely Fuller, in this particular clip that was sent to me by the dear Baba brother, it says that we have no leaders. And so let's keep talking. So again, to say in the same person is saying, well, I never said we didn't have leaders, but this clip is absolutely saying that, and it aligns with much of what the person has been saying with the capital N and O, no leaders.
Okay, so I'm just a spokesperson, and there are a lot of people who wear the tag of leader just because they are speaking. You see them on TV all the time. They are spokespersons. What's the requirement of a leader?
And I agree with that aspect right here, but I disagree with the aspect that there's no leaders.
First of all, you got to be able to protect your followers. I don't know of any black person on earth that can do that. Now,
he doesn't know any black person on the earth. Now, this is from this clip that was sent to me. I will have to look at the greater body of work of Neely Fuller, and I haven't brushed up on it in some time, but this is the clip that was sent to me. So we're going to go from this particular premise that this person told me there's no leaders, then it evolved to there's no effective leaders, but still sent me this clip that says there's no leaders.
Say protect your followers, I'm from the white supremacists. That's the only time you're a black leader.
What did he say? The only time you're a black leader is...
Now, when I say protect your followers, I'm from the white supremacists. That's the only time you're a black leader. That a black person who is my leader, I get in trouble, I get on the phone. All I should have is that leader's phone number and say, hey, look, maximum leader, I'm down here on La Brea and I'm in trouble with the white folks. Tell me where you are again, and I tell him. He says, okay, don't worry about a thing. I'll take care of it. And they will know it when they hear that I'm on my way. Now, see, now you got a leader. Now, I'm talking about, and they mean it. I mean, and when they hear he's coming, I mean, they turn you loose and take off running. Now you got a leader. Other than...
So, see, they would have to take off and run in order to be a leader. You would have to be able to defeat white supremacy, according to this clip, to be a leader. I just disagree with that.
That you just got a spokesperson. You just got a person to come there and, and speak for you.
That means you have to win the battle in every battle, or you're not a leader. That's Help me out with this, y'all. Help me out with this. Maybe I'm moving fast, but I'm just it's just not. It's just I don't think I can't agree with this assessment. Although I appreciate the Bible, you know what I mean.
And the racists will say, "Well, I don't know. I don't know whether we let him go or not. What do you think, Dale?" See, no, that's not leadership. Leadership is when you got the muscle. Otherwise, you're just talking.
So you have to have the muscle. They have to be let go. If you don't have that ability, then you don't have leadership. So in other words, to me, this is very simplistic and problematic.
Now, somebody might say, by that analogy, Jesus was not a leader. I know black. Well, Jesus, according to what everybody told me, had the best leadership in the world, and that was God. Okay, so you can't argue against that one, the creator of the universe. But see, I don't see no black person that is supposed to have that kind of muscle. Not even enough muscle to get white people, to back off. I mean, where they can't question it. See, there's no negotiating. See,
so you can't, in order to be a leader, there's no question. You must have like this power, like really kind of like tantamount to God in order to be a leader. Now, to me, what's problematic about that is that if we use this to gauge leadership, there's technically not, like, many races don't have, if it's just that easy, then we don't, most races, cultures don't have leaders. I just think this is a very unnuanced way of looking at things. But you have to be almost God, like you got to have the level of God. Now, Farrakhan says he fears no man because he know who has him. Maybe he talked to Nelly Fuller, because he knows who he serves is the most powerful, and that there's weapons bigger than any material weapon in this universe. Let me see. So I see a conversation going in here. Brother Ori says, we acknowledge the trauma, doctor, but the idea that our perspective is based on trauma instead of quality analysis is dismissive and subjugating. Well, this is a very general conversation. I'm saying that when I'm speaking in generalities as it pertains to our community, not one person. There are people who do have analysis and all this type of thing. But what I would say is that many times when people say that we have no leaders, this is a result of our experience here in this country, our letdowns, our hurt, our traumas, our fears. And even more so, we don't need leaders, I said. That is even more indicative that there's some hurt and trauma that we have to get over. We don't need leaders. I mean, I hear it all the time. And I'm not being dismissive. I'm really giving you a conceptualization of what's going on in our communities. What happens is we have a lot of people who struggle with trust. I mean, and I'm giving you analysis. It's okay to instead of saying like countering me, counter the points. So I would go into like what Dr. Amos Wilson says. I would go into what Dr. Joy DeGruy says. I would go into what Dr. Patricia Newton speaks about. I would go into what Dr. Naim Akbar speaks about when we talk about trauma. When we talk about Black consciousness, I will go into these people who study the minds and speak about this very thing and how it thwarts our belief systems. And the way that it has us believing things is not real. And the reason why we do that is because we're trying to defend ourselves. I'm saying one who studies trauma, one who is, I'm going to say, an expert in trauma, one who understands Black identity, one who studies, who done original firsthand research on this. And again, I'm open for the dialectic, but it's not about. See, again, it's not about now. Now, I'm get late, and I'll be trying to get these words out, and I'm scared to do it right now. Characterizing me, I'm gonna say, versus really dealing with the point. You know what I mean? Versus dealing with the point, and the point is, dang, I got stuck here. So the point would be, I lost it, y'all. Let's see if we can find it. Let me see. Okay, here we go. We acknowledge the trauma, but doctor, the idea that our perspective is based on trauma instead of quality analysis is dismissive and subjugating. I'm sorry that it feels subjugating. I mean, I don't have the power, according to you and others, to be subjugating. I have no power. So I'm not really understanding about what I'm saying is subjugating. I don't have the power to subjugate you. Dismissive is, I do understand that we have analysis. And I also said I just can disagree with it as well. I would say that we all are working through trauma at different levels. We all are in this war. Some of you would say there's no war. We have to know we're at war and all that. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm saying that we are constantly being bombarded by this white supremacist society that Baba Neely Fuller speaks about, that I agree with. Now, I think the problem is that when I'm in too many places and I work with individuals, individually, collectively, familiarly, on all different levels, that is my analysis. So again, yes, they can have an analysis. This is my analysis. And to say my analysis is subjugating would be kind of, and dismissive would also say that I can't have an analysis. This is my analysis. This is my professional opinion. I'm sorry if it feels that way. I'm doing this for us. Again, I said, Dr. Amos Wilson said that if you're in a social science class and it's not uncomfortable, if you're not angry, if you're not downright upset, then likely the teacher is not really doing his job to bring about liberation. So pardon me for that. I'm really being really sincere. But again, healing is an uncomfortable process. When I sit with people and they don't, it's called identifying the problem. And many times people, when we're going through that therapeutic, and I'll call this that psychosocial therapeutic process, we're not going to see the thing. We're not going to see it. You know, I mean, so many people walk in my counseling room and they speak to this idea of not really feeling, they'll be like, I'm not angry. I'm not hurt. I don't have trauma, until you teach them what trauma is. Until you show them what trauma is, until they go home and reflect, although they don't want it to be a thing, because they don't want that particular label, or this is a loose, I'm not saying diagnostic, like official diagnosis, but they don't want that particular diagnosis. So again, sometimes, like when you tell somebody they're struggling with anxiety, they feel like that's subjugating. They feel like it's dismissive of something else. And what I'm saying is, I do get what you're saying, that how it can feel dismissive, but when one comes up, their information comes up against new information, we experience something called dissonance. And dissonance is very uncomfortable. It's when you learn a thing and you know a thing, and when you see things in ways, and now someone shows you something else, that is very uncomfortable. and it can feel dismissive. It's kind of like somebody saying, well, you know what? You know that story isn't true in the Bible, or you know that story isn't true in the Quran, or you know that you really like that network marketing company that you're in, that's not really going to get you to us to where we're trying to go. Or, you know, anything like that. Like, you know, that organization that you're a part of, FBA, is a cult. Like that becomes very, very hard to deal with, especially when you start showing people examples of how and it contradicts, or it conflicts, or it challenges their current beliefs. It's uncomfortable. It can feel dismissive. It can feel diminishing even. It can feel like this person doesn't understand me. It can feel like you subjugate. I don't know what subjugating. I don't understand subjugating means in this sense, but maybe it can feel a bit. I'll just go with the word subjugating since it's written there. But the reality is, no, it's called education. We in Dawes Lecture Hall, and Dr. Amos Wilson again said it. Is an uncomfortable place when we try to bring about growth. I have no reason, again, to bring about straw men. I want to be liked. I don't want to be at odds with people just for the sake of being at odds with people. I want to be your homie. I still want you to see me as your younger brother. So again, it's not about that. But to me, I know I have to do what's unpopular at times for us, because it's not about me. Because if it was about me, I wouldn't say anything. Because this type of video ain't about no clicks and views. You know what I mean? Like, if I wanted clicks and views, I'll join FBA. It's so much easier to join FBA. It's so much easier to join that which just joining fake stuff. What that was tickles people's fancy. This doesn't tickle a lot of our fancy. If I wanted to just throw out straw man arguments, this wouldn't be it. No, I wouldn't be choosing this career of truth telling, because it's not popular. It won't get you a lot of views. Sherry Covenant said, please do not join the cult. Laughing out loud. So again, let's go back to this clip, family. I lost my space with it, but let's see where we at. Let's see if I can find it.
Here, then I'm on my way. Now, see, now you got a leader. Now I'm talking about, and they mean it. I mean, and when they hear he's coming, I mean, they turn you loose and take off running. Now you got a leader. Other than that, you just got a spokesperson. You just got a person that come there and speak for you. And the racists will say, well, I don't know. I don't know whether we let him go or not. What do you think, Dale? See, no, that's not leadership. Leadership is when you got the muscle. Otherwise, you're just talking. Now, somebody might say, by that analogy, Jesus was not a leader. I know black. Well, Jesus, according to what everybody told me, had the best leadership in the world. And that was God. Okay? So you can't argue against that one, the creator of the universe. But see, I don't see no black person that is supposed to have that kind of muscle. Not even enough muscle to get white people, to back off. I mean, where they can't question it. See, there's no negotiating. See, because the white supremacists don't negotiate. They don't have to negotiate. They just say, hey, move. Like, I just want to say this about, gangs and all like that. That's something I try to impart to young and old gang leaders. I say, now, you're supposed to be a gang leader. You ain't even got a good medic. Right. One of your guys gets shot, you got to call for public service. Now, what kind of leadership is that? You're supposed to be the baddest dude out here. All right. Not only that, they come and bulldoze your grandmother's house. And you said it was your turf. And there's some white guy out there sitting on a caterpillar you know, bulldozing your grandmother's house and eating a sandwich while he's doing it. He ain't even got a gun. And this is your turf. Now, see, when you're a real gang leader, you go out there and tell all them 500 construction workers, you all be out of here by noon. And by the way, leave your equipment. It's mine because it's on my land. Yeah, see how that flies. Okay.
Now, some people.
So you can't, according to this clip, you must have ultimate, omnipotent power to be considered leader. So that just counts out everybody. I mean, so black people ain't the only ones that don't have leaders. There's no such thing as leadership with this type of conceptual framework, which I think this is I think that this framework is problematic. I think it has deposited a not so good framework in order to identify leadership. And this is part of the problem, because we don't, if we're using this, we don't know how to identify leaders. See, that's the problem. And this is where I want to get to. We have leaders in our community, and because we don't think that we can be leaders unless we can beat every white man's tail in the world, unless we got the authority of God, that becomes problematic. So we'll never get to where we want to go if leadership, to be a leader, there's a requirement that you have already had all the power, like omnipotent power. That right there is a very all or nothing, black or white way of looking at it. That is a very defeatist way of looking at it, because I get it. I just don't. I think that's a horrible definition of leadership. And I would argue that what I would argue is that we need to come up with our own ideas. And I have my own, but I'm saying, but for those of us who struggle with identifying leaders, if we don't believe there's none in the first place, and you can only be that if you have all the power in the world, that's a horrible way of conceptualizing. I understand why you don't think there's any leaders, but that overlooks the potential we have in our communities.
Said they've seen some cartoons of my work on the internet that have been presented, and that
I think that's enough of that clip. You can go and check that clip out.
What I have been trying to say.
You can go and check that clip out on your own. The rest of it, I think it was a pretty interesting clip. I think it's a great era. I think that Baba Neely Fuller, ancestor Neely Fuller, has done great work, especially around what racism is and how entrenched it is and all that, and a lot of what we're doing, and just how experience in America is something to consider and build upon, and even challenge that to a great degree. But this right here, to me, it lacks merit. It lacks intellectual rigor. I mean, I get it that I think it's very theoretical and philosophical. I think there's some deep thinking. Sometimes we now y'all challenge me and say I'm doing too much. This is what I will call doing too much. That, or maybe not doing enough. I'm still, maybe I'm just missing the point. But again, I would argue that in order to bring about African sovereignty, Black liberation, Black sovereignty, what have you, we have to realize that we have those before us locally that are capable of national leadership, but we have to be able to identify their qualities. And if we don't identify their qualities, and the only thing we go by is that we're the leaders, everybody's the leader, and then we have no leaders, and we can't have leaders as long as the white man is on top, I think that becomes problematic. So then it was also, this particular video was sent to me about Dr. Amos Wilson. Y'all heard about it. And I just took a few sound bites from this to kind of like explain some things. It's not working. Okay, it's not working. But this is what I would say. I'll just read it here because Dr. Amos Wilson says here, the speaker, well, let me just put it like this. This is what Dr. Amos says. He speaks about an assimilationist, moralist leadership establishment has failed the Black community by promoting integration over development of economic power and strategic institutional building. He claims that this leadership has not established a sense of mission or purpose. Sense of mission or purpose, which he views as essential for empowerment. So again, Dr. Amos Wilson is critiquing leadership in this particular, the crisis of the Black leadership or something like that. That's the name of the, I said it earlier, maybe I'll go back to it a little to kind of verify what the actual title is later. But he's not saying we don't have leadership. What he is saying is that, in fact, we have poor leadership. He's even identifying those who are poor leaders in our communities. He's identifying them with the leadership qualities, but are being utilized by this white supremacist system. He goes on. According to the speaker, Dr. Amos Wilson, true power in America is based on the ownership of productive facilities, property, and institutions, rather than merely gaining abstract rights through voting or moral persuasion. His critiques Black leaders who prioritize becoming race transcending or focusing on moral appeal, suggesting that they are serious leaders. Dr. Amos Wilson is saying, look, oh yeah, we got leaders for sure in our community. He's saying we got leaders. There's a lot of poor leaders as well. So he's not. So this was the other clip, right? That was sent to me. And I'll go back to the actual piece that I'm talking about. It says, what does it say here? It says, okay, let's see if I have it. Oh, here it is right here. So what it's saying here in this particular, it says, peace, doctor. I watched the entire podcast of you and Brother Imhotep. It was 100%. So I agree with that podcast that I was called out as being, what is it called? As what's the term? Dang, it's getting hard, y'all. It's getting hard. I was using a straw man argument, but again, they clearly say here that they watched the podcast, and I had already been talking about those things. It said, I would imagine you are familiar with Dr. Amos Wilson on the crisis of Black leadership, available on YouTube. So that's where that clip came from, family. That's what that's kind of like exact. That's what I wanted to share with you. That's where that clip came from. Have a problem, Dr. Amos Wilson, right? But let's go here. Let's go here. All right, so you heard Dr. Amos Wilson. Let me just be very clear. Again, Dr. Amos Wilson is not saying that we don't have leadership. He is saying that those that we see as leaders that are brought before us are not quality leaders. They are working in aiding and abating white supremacy. And hold up, let me just let another ancestor come into the room. Again, they say we got to use frameworks. So you got Dr. Amos Wilson that acknowledges that we have leaders, but a lot of these leaders, he says, are selling out to the white man. He didn't say all of them, but he saying we have to identify these people as being problematic and toxic to our community. So let's do this. So we got this one here, right? And I'm gonna actually do the whole screen here. I saw this clip today. I said the universe kind of works always. I woke up this morning and I saw this clip from my dear brother, Davon Love, from Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle, that are doing great work in their organization, Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. And this is what the caption reads: many people who are designated as Black leaders in mainstream politics audition for their spot. I just thought that was phenomenal and right on time with what we're talking about today. So I decided to grab it so we can watch it together.
Have a problem with the tricks that are played when you're depending on somebody else to give you permission or to give you money. So these people in 1980, they did a lot of things in 1980. You may not know this, but there was a meeting called in 1980 at the Fairmont Hotel. You might want to go get this book if you can still find it. Most of these things don't stay in print long. The book is called The Fairmont Papers. And in the Fairmont Papers, they had a bunch of Negroes that they invited to the Fairmont Hotel to audition for jobs as Negro leaders. The meeting was chaired by Edwin Meese. In other words, somebody had a meeting before the meeting. And they knew that if they flattered some Negroes and told them they were going to be the new leaders, they could replace the old leadership and they could come out. Well, some of the names of people who were there.
So again, this is Dr. Asa G. Hilliard. And one of the things he's saying here, when you hear him acknowledge, he's already acknowledging from the start that there was leadership, and there was in 1980 there was an intentional effort to bring in to create leadership, to put people in position to serve white supremacy and the status quo, because we've had leadership. Now, according to Neely Fuller, you could never have leadership, according to the clip in the brother. It's saying that, so to say that you can't have leadership under white supremacy would now dismiss so many people that we've been calling leaders all the time. So that would mean that there's Marcus Garvey's not a leader, Malcolm X not a leader, so many people aren't leaders. Dr. King, we have our debates about that, right? That there's so many people that have fought for us, like Harriet Tubman. That's like saying she's not a leader because she was under the forces of white supremacy. So she didn't lead and she wasn't resisting. If you have to resist, or you're under this, if you're in this society, you can't be a leader in trying to help bring about change. Leader, again, to me, there's a gross conflation with outcomes. You don't have to be a leader, like you don't have to have the outcome to be considered a leader. A leader is to help guide you to the outcomes. That is a different thing. Okay, that's a different thing. I see y'all doing something in the chat board. I'm kind of being nosy, but let me just continue to play Baba, Dr. Ancestor Asa G. Hilliard, who's already acknowledging that there's leaders and there's been a usurp of leaders somewhere around the 1980s, an intentional usurp. Okay, let's see here.
Have a problem with the tricks that are played when you're depending on somebody else to give you permission or to give you money. So these people in 1980, they did a lot of things in 1980. You may not know this, but there was a meeting called in 1980 at the Fairmont Hotel. You might want to go get this book if you can still find it. Most of these things don't stay in print long. And the book is called The Fairmont Papers. And in the Fairmont Papers, they had a bunch of Negroes that they invited to the Fairmont Hotel to audition for jobs as Negro leaders. The meeting was chaired by Edwin Meese. In other words, somebody had a meeting before the meeting. And they knew.
Let me hold on. I think I want to make sure I give a special shout out to a leader here in Baltimore. I just saw him put a post in, and that's brother President Winchester, another leader here in Baltimore who's saying leadership coming to Baltimore. I'm going to say leadership already in Baltimore due to the nature that you're already here, dear real truth to power, truth and power. Now you don't have to agree with that, but we can continue this dialogue. But my brother Everett Winchester, another shining example of leadership in our community. And he's also a national officer in a national or international organization. That now, are we where we want to be? You know, all that type of thing? No, but we cannot deny the fact that there is national, local, there's efforts on many fronts. Brother Real Truth to Power, President Winchester, I'm glad you said something, because I'm like, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention you and so many other people. Blame it on my brain, and it's the time of night that it is, the time of day it is, and all that type of thing, not my heart. So President Winchester says, I agree, a lot more coming. I agree with that too. We got a lot more coming. And that's why I want to call out and lift up all those who are leaders locally, internationally, and we're gonna have to bring our efforts together collectively for sure. But the fact is, we do have leaders and we do need leaders. That is my argument, and I maintain that. So let's go back to Baba Asa G. Hilliard and he's telling you what really happened. One of the things that's happened in our community.
That if they flattered some Negroes and told them they were going to be the new leaders, they could replace the old leadership, and they could come out. Well, some of the names of people who were there, you know, Clarence Pendleton was there. Remember him? The anti-civil rights person. Clarence Thomas was there. Did you know that? You thought Clarence Thomas just came up on his own. He auditioned for the job. I'm saying we may be sitting down thinking things happen accidentally.
So he's telling you, Baba Asa G. Hilliard, there hasn't been an intentional attack and replacement of authentic and genuine leadership. And I think we must, and not that they can do that, but those who we find in the public eye, these are often created people that work for the system, people who support the system and the status quo. So Shabaka say, I'm ready to do the work, Dr. Asar. Tahaka Bay, Queen Maya want to meet leaders of Baltimore. Ashe. So let's see what else we got going here. I'm almost done, and I might open the call. I might open the call up today. I might open it up today just for maybe like 15 minutes.
Have a problem with the.
And then so I might open it up for about 15 minutes. So here I have another clip, and it says, for my dear elder brother, Bob Imhotep, in this conversation that I had with him about leadership before now, is not a straw man. And it was specifically about we don't need black leaders. Again, I keep saying it's not a straw man because I've already been talking about this thing. So the fact that, I do take exception to that, but I understand, and then I also understand people moving the goalposts. But again, after this particular conversation, you got Dr. Amos Wilson saying we got leaders. You got, in fact, hold up. I think, you know what? I think I'm skipping the clip. Hold on. I think I'm skipping the clip. I think I'm moving ahead of myself. I think I'm moving ahead of myself, y'all. Let me see. It's another clip I wanted to show y'all. I hope I got it. Oh man. Okay.
Leader.
I don't know what happened to the clip. There's another clip, y'all. I want to show you this clip. Well, anyway, hold on. I gotta show you this clip. All right, baby, take care. Look, somebody come in. Hey, brother Cuz, come in. I gotta show this clip. Somebody come in and let's talk for a minute while I close this out. I definitely want to show this particular clip, and I don't know why it's not in my video. Well, maybe I have it. Let me see. Maybe I got it somewhere, and I don't have to put it in my presentation. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. You know what? That's cool. I got it. I don't have to put it in my PowerPoint. And there we go. So I want to show you this clip here because I wanted to build off of that clip with our dear elder Asa G. Hilliard, Dr. Asa G. Hilliard, ancestor. And let's kind of help him bring all this together.
Tonight, because I think about one other thing, and that is that my understanding of history causes me frequently to look at the area of leadership, to ask the question, what is the source of leadership that's liberation oriented?
So again, he furthers the question. He didn't just stop saying, well, you know what, we've been set up. We've been attacked by the government and they put these false leaders in place. He continues this conversation. Let's hear what the dear Baba says.
What is the source of leadership that's liberation oriented? Which means that there's leadership that's not liberation oriented.
So he says, see, that's the specificity I'm talking about. He says that his leadership that is liberation oriented. And he says that would also imply that there's leadership that is not. So again, we're not looking at this simple. We do or we don't, because that's not how real social science work. I said, welcome to DAW's lecture hall. I'm letting the elders do the work. You understand what I'm trying to say? We can show, look, the elders outnumbering this idea is we got one elder against about 5 now. I might be off with the numbers, y'all. But let's continue.
That there is leadership where someone attempts to get a group moving in a certain direction and frequently may be successful in getting that group to move in a particular direction. That may be anti-group. But there's leadership that is liberation oriented. And I mean by that something very simple, which is that when people operate in their own interests, they're liberated, as opposed to operating.
When people operate in their own interests, the way he's conceptualizing this, they're liberated. When people are operating in their own interests, listen to what he says, watch what he says.
In somebody else's interest and for their benefit. And so I asked myself,
DAW's Lecture Hall family, make sure you like, thumb up the video, hype up the video, leave comments when this video goes down. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you go to the Substack where I'll be writing more articles and things like that. I appreciate, all those that are leaders in our community, locally and worldwide. Do we gotta do better? We have to do better. I appreciate all you taking this ride. I don't come up. I take rides. That's my approach, because this is Dawes Lecture Hall, and I appreciate you all communicating in the chat room and all that type of thing. Again, after this video goes down, make sure you also share it. Just like in regular class, my words start to get a little twisted when it gets closer to 10 o'clock at night. So again, for those who want to come in, get ready, because I'm gonna give you about 15 minutes or so. I'm gonna put that link in the chat, just to get you ready right now. because keep in mind that Dawes Lecture Hall has rules, and we want to give like 2 minutes to our points that we want to share. And Daw has as in the syllabus, he can determine whether or not he allows others to go longer when he feels that is needed. Okay, so all right, again, welcome to Dawes Lecture Hall.
Question frequently, what is the origin of liberation leadership?
What is the origin?
Now, it's easy for me to pick people that I think are liberation leaders. I've got and I'm always...
He can pick people that are liberation leaders. This is one of our greatest, Dr. Asa G. Hilliard. If you haven't studied him, go study him. Look him up. I know he's really teaching. You know what I mean?
A little bit different than some others when I see posters of leaders among African people, because there are some people I wouldn't have on my poster.
He's saying everybody don't make the cut.
Some Africans I wouldn't have on my poster. Some members,
and that's very essential. He's saying some people don't make his poster. And again, you'll see what he's saying. I'm actually speaking to, like, we have to have an African-centered analysis as well. And when I mean the African-centered analysis, it encompasses these other things: class, race, gender, all those type of things. It encompasses these things.
African family that could not be on my poster. They're welcome, they're loved, but they cannot be perceived as leaders of African people on my poster board. Now, maybe they can be on some other poster board. And a few of you have been in my house, and I don't know whether you've seen this poster board, because now it's in the storage room, pending a point where I can replace it where it belongs. But I have a lot of people on that board, and it's the conscious people in the community that I have on that board. I have Hakeem Adabuti on that board.
Look, Hakeem Adabuti, contemporary. He started out with a what? That's what I'm saying. He started out with a contemporary. That's why I say President Everett Winchester is a leader on my board. Baba Imhotep Fatu, a leader on my board. Brother Jabari Nektar, leader. Sister Ya on my board. Mama Ife on my board. First Lady President on my board. Mama Eartha on my board. These are people, these are my contemporaries. These are people that's still here. We got to do better. We have to do that. Because again, to say we don't, then we don't shine a light where people can find those who are liberation oriented.
I have Sojourner Truth on that board. I have Frederick Douglass on that board.
Ancestors.
I have Mari Evans on that board. I have Barbara Sizemore on that board.
His contemporary.
I have Kwame Ture on that board. I have Joseph.
These, from his standpoint, are revolutionary or liberatory leaders.
And Yakinen on that board. I have John Henry Clark on that.
This is the living and the ancestors. You hear me? During his time, and then also those who come before him. But lots of these people were his contemporaries or his elders.
I have Kwame Nkrumah on that board. I have people on the board who don't betray you.
He said he has people on the board that don't betray you. Now listen to what he says next. He has people on the board that don't betray you. But now again, this is going to go back to something earlier we talked about as far as agreeing.
I mean, that I think don't betray you. You know, they may disagree with each other, but their direction is always forward.
They may disagree with each other, but their direction is always forward. We got to learn to disagree with each other. I'm not saying agree to disagree. I ain't with that. Look, I'm just saying just disagree. Just disagree. That's fine. Just disagree. That's good enough. But still move us in with the desire to move us forward.
I feel that they're always forward. And this was something I put together in 1982, when I first came to Atlanta, when I felt that I needed the ancestors around me. And I like my board up on the wall where I can look at that board sometimes when I'm just thinking. And I keep, wishing.
Invoking the ancestors. You hear what Doc is saying. You hear what he's saying.
I keep wishing that whatever meager offerings I have might be acceptable.
He says, he's throwing himself in there in a way saying, I hope that I'm acceptable. And again, I echo those words. I hope and pray that I'm acceptable.
Kind of like calling a meeting of the family for me. And I imagine what would they think? What would Frederick Douglass think? What would Kwame think?
Embodying the spirit of our ancestors. What would Frederick Douglass think? What would Garvey think?
What would Garvey think of what is about to be done? It imposes a kind of...
I say, what would Amos Wilson think? What would Asa G. Hilliard think? I even say, what does my elders think? What would my father think? What would brother my contemporaries think? Those who really practice deep African deep thought. Losi Lumumba, another deep thinker. He's gonna be on here tomorrow, by the way. Make sure you get yourself ready. Wally Moo, he's gonna correct me if I say Baba. I'm probably gonna mess up during the show. But in Wally Moo, Losi Lumumba, I appreciate his analysis.
Discipline and an order. These are the kind of people that I think of when I think of liberation leadership. Someone who has the highest interest of African people in mind and moves them in a forward direction. And so I ask the question again, what is the source of that liberation leadership?
So he asks, what is the source of that liberation leadership? He has other clips to this particular video, and he goes into some history on some of the sources of this liberation leadership. In other words, who are you studying? What revolutionary figures, what liberatory figures, what healers have you studied? Who are you invoking? Who are you embodying? Are you saying that these people were not leaders or are not leaders? See, because some of the people he named are still alive, at least one. And yeah, they were alive during his time. And I'm arguing that my contemporaries are out here working. We are working hard. Again, he spoke about people who would not sell out African people as a qualification of Black liberational leadership. So I'm going to get to this clip here. And this is going to bring us to more like of a close as we, I put the link in the chat, I think. Oh, I didn't put the link in the chat. Hold on, let me put the link in the chat. And I think, again, we have to be able to identify what leadership looks like. Because if we don't have a measure, then we'll say things like we have no leadership. If we think we've already have to have reached the promised land in order to identify leadership and leadership quality, and we got some things wrong. I'm saying this as a social scientist to understand that there's not this black or white way of looking at things, and looking at things in black and white often is a sign or symptom that you are trying to protect, is a sign that is commonly found in trauma. Because it helps you protect yourself. So when you hear things from a very black and white sense with no nuance, often there's a very threatening and defensive way of that the person is operating and thinking from, if we can call it thinking. But let's see what Baba Imhotep says as we try to qualify and quantify and gather what leadership is in our community. So let's go.
Leaders are born with the potentials, the ingredients necessary to become leaders. I don't believe that somebody who don't have the ingredients can be made into a leader.
So Baba Imhotep's thought is that there's certain ingredients that one must possess to be identified as a leader. He goes on to say that he doesn't believe everybody has that. So again, going back to our question here, we don't have black leaders, and we do. We don't need black leaders, and we do. And I'm going to extend it to saying that we all are the leaders, and that's not right. That's not accurate. And I would argue that when we say we all are the leader in these different capacities, we're really struggling with some things, whether we know it or not, whether we want to admit it or not. I'm not the leader of everything.
I don't believe a coward can be a leader because part of leadership is courage. I don't believe that. I don't care what no one can ever convince me that a coward. Leaders must possess something that allows them to serve as the binding mechanism to keep people together.
So again, this is him quantifying on qualifying. He said they must serve as, they must have something to serve as the binding mechanism to keep people together. He is saying this is one of the qualities as we speak about leaders in our liberation struggle. Well, struggle
keep
for
it together. Cowards can't do it. Right?
Yeah.
Some cowards can. So I don't believe that everybody can be made into a leader.
He's saying you can't. You have to be. In other words, you have to be able to bring people together, and you also have to be brave. You have to be courageous. So these are two qualities that we can put on our scale to qualify what leaders are and what is needed and how we identify leaders. One, he says, and I agree with him, that you must be able to bring people together. You must also be able to, you must be courageous. You must have courage.
Leader, in terms of operationally, that's a rare thing.
He's also saying it's a rare thing. I agree that not, because this goes to this question that we all leaders, we don't need no. I would argue that, please, with all due respect, that is a part of the trauma that we've undergone to have us saying things like that. I mean, some of us really believe it because I would argue there's a lack of analysis. Sorry if you disagree. You can say that I'm lacking analysis. I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm not trying to step on your toes, and I'm not really about the trauma Olympics or the oppression Olympics or the victimhood, because it's okay for you to give me an analysis, but when I give you my analysis now you're stepping on toes, now you're doing this and doing that. No, give me your analysis. Just support it.
It's not for every person. Everybody doesn't have the psychological fortitude to be a leader. Leaders are built differently psychologically. They just are.
Again, I said this is a psychological construct. I agree with him. My dear brother, Baba Imhotep, I agree with him. Now, I say that Baba Imhotep's a social scientist. He didn't have to go through academia to be that. He's talking about a psychological construct. He's giving you traits of a leader: courageous, one who serves as a binding mechanism, one who, I forgot the last thing he just said. Oh, psychologically different.
They can endure. Their psychological endurance is strong.
They have tenacity, he's saying. Psychological endurance. So we can identify those leaders in our communities. I'm talking about those before us. I'm not about this idea that we don't have national leaders or this or they local. Look, if we can't identify them locally, how the hell are we going to get them nationally? We got to identify them and lift them up and support them. That is a major part of the problem, is that we can't identify. And this is not a straw man argument. This is a real argument, because there's a real problem in our community when we can't identify the leaders and the people before us that are serving us. And then what we'll say that there was leaders in the past, there's no leaders today. I promise you, historically, when you look at the record, you will realize that even those people that we see as leaders today, people were saying they weren't leaders back in the day. We got to be a little bit more nuanced and understand so we won't continue the same mistakes.
Their ability to think for 7, 8, 9, and 10 people at one time is more optimal than the average person.
Yeah.
Like, leaders are able to place themselves in everybody's situation and render a decision that's favorable to everybody. Leaders are born.
So he's saying that they must have,
that's a rare thing,
empathy. They must be able to have a strong sense of metacognitive ability. I got it out, y'all. It's late. Metacognitive ability. I can't promise I can do it the third time. So this is what my dear Baba Imhotep is saying. Let's see if I got in the right place.
Everybody doesn't have the psychological fortitude to be a leader. Leaders are built differently psychologically. They just are. They can endure. Their psychological endurance is stronger. Their ability to think for 7, 8, 9, and 10 people at one time is more optimal than the average person.
Yeah. These people are considerate. They have empathy. They have mental and intellectual flexibility. They have emotional, let's say, emotionally, they're mature. They have what you call emotional intelligence. In other words, they can read people. They can see what's going on. They can consider other people. They consider what's best for the particular group that we find ourselves in. Some of these people are called elders. Some of them called Big Mama. There's leaders in different spaces. We know Big Mama had the ability to keep the family together. She was courageous. We also got Big Papa. I'm sorry, hold up, not Umar. Oh boy, I didn't mean that. But okay, let's keep going.
Like, leaders are able to place themselves in everybody's situation and render a decision that's favorable to everybody.
And render a decision that's favorable. Hold up, is that the end of the clip? Is that what it was?
Place themselves in everybody's situation and render a decision that's favorable to everybody.
That's what it was. It's the end of the clip. Okay, I guess I had to do a little remix. You know what I mean? So again, all of that, these like, write those down. And as you look for leadership in our community, see how they fare on this particular scale. And perhaps what we can do as a community, because there's there's things called psychometrics. where we measure the ability of leadership. And you had an observer's rating, and then you also have that is getting late. Self-assessment. I can't think of the proper term, but when you take the scale, when you take the test, the psychological test, and then you have an observer rating, self-report, and observer rating. So you take it, and it can say, whoa, where you fare as a leader. And then you can have someone else outside of yourself that's fair and not going to be inaccurate to also observe you, to see how close you fit in that particular realm. So all you have to do is take, and I'm not saying it's that simple, but I'm saying what my dear brother Bob Imhotep is offering up is something to consider when we look at who are potential or who have the qualities of leadership in our community. And those who are already serving as leaders in our community, who we think are leaders, do they fit this bill? Are they authentic? Is it just about how they talk? Can they put the collective before they put their individual desires? Are they disciplined? You know what I mean? It's these type of things that we must look at, because it's past the time.
Leaders.
It's past the time where we can say, well, we don't have leaders. That is lazy scholarship. That is inaccurate at best. I put here, we have to measure. Family, come up on here if anybody want to join me for this last look like 10 minutes or something. I'm gonna put it in there again if you want to join me. All right. Other than that, we're gonna get out of here. So again, what your social scientists have scales. They just don't say that leadership doesn't exist. I put here, leadership is a multi-dimensional thing. Established instruments measure multiple domains, not simple yes or no. So leadership is a multi-dimensional type of construct. Leadership is a multi-dimensional construct. So it's not about measuring one thing, and there's a plethora of scales to measure it, and we have to have our own scales because leadership exists. But we should never conflate leadership with the outcome of African sovereignty, or we'll never reach African sovereignty. If we have to have all the power in the world to have leaders, that is bizarre. That is very, very interesting thing. That is a very deficit-based way of looking at things. That would mean that people who are warring against each other, there's no leaders on either side until the person to the one side comes out victorious. So again, we have to look at this thing with more complexity. So I put here, I've just put some quick instruments, quick search on that. There's actually instruments, scales, tests, assessments to actually measure leadership qualities. I'm not saying these are the ones that we use, but I want you to consider how you look at things with more nuance when you consider who is a leader. See, those that you are at war with don't look at things well, let me not say that, but let's say that those that you are at war with do measure leadership. We have to have our own measures of leadership. It's not a simple yes or no question. No, it's simple. We do have leadership, but how do we identify who qualifies as a leader? So I would argue that we should have some way to identify these things. You see the characteristics that Bob Imhotep spoke about. These are some characteristics. This is a way to identify, not to just say we don't have. That is lazy social science. So again, this instrument here, the MLK Multi-Factor Leadership Questionnaire. Let's look at the major domains. The major domains on this questionnaire is transformational, transactional, passive avoidant outcomes. Passive avoidant and outcomes. So look, So it's multidimensional, right? These are the domains. That means that if you score high on, you can score high on some areas and low on some areas and still be considered a leader. So what it measures integrity, trust, and ethical behavior, inspiration and shared vision, innovation and problem solving, coaching and developing people, rewards, accountability and monitoring, effectiveness, satisfaction, extra effort. Even if you want to say effectiveness, note that it has to be smart. As I said, realistic, smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. We have to look at what's achievable in a realistic amount of time. And I argue that we are not being smart in our goals. If we have to have already reached African sovereignty before we have identified a leader, we will never reach it. I argue that, I maintain that. And if you have any problems with that, challenge the point I'm making. Don't come after me. I can't help how you feel, because I'm doing my best to be very respectful about this. I'm doing my best to be very respectful about this. Don't challenge me, challenge the points. So again, what does it measure? Effectiveness, satisfaction, extra effort. So this is a scale that the people are using in some spaces. LPI, leadership practices inventory. 5 leadership practices: model the way, inspire shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, encourage the heart. Now, this sounds similar to a great degree similar to what our dear brother Bobby Imhotep spewed off the top of his head. Models values and set the example. Leaders must set the example. That's why I keep saying Umar is falling short on that. And people saying, well, we can't hold, like, no. We have to hold all of us accountable who come before us. I'm saying many of us, especially those of us who say that they are Pan-Africanists and are over there breaking bread with Tariq, we have to hold them accountable. You must be a model. And those who you're in bed with, you will come up with fleas. It also says inspires a compelling shared vision. This is some of the things it measures. Challenges the status quo and seeks improvement. Empowers others to take action and recognizes contributions and celebrate success. This is how they measure the LPI, leadership practice inventory. So I'll go through this one right here. 7 servant leadership dimensions: emotional healing, creating value for the community, conceptual skills, empowering, helping followers grow and succeed, putting followers first, behaving ethically. I'm saying that even with these measures, you have plenty of leaders in our community. Cares for and heals others, build community and creates value, uses conceptual and strategic thinking, empowers and develops people, helps followers grow and succeed, puts followers' needs first, acts with integrity and ethical behavior. I'm saying those that you are at war with, they're measuring what it qualifies to be a leader. So we don't need no simple answers. It says here, leadership is not measured as a flat trait. Established leadership instruments already examine multiple domains and facets such as vision, ethics, empowerment, follower development, accountability, innovation, and collective outcomes. And then you can see why we're struggling with holding people accountable, because we don't have no leaders, or we don't have anything to gauge what qualifies one to be a leader, even an effective leader. If you say you don't have leaders, how would you ever have an effective leader? We got to be clear with our language. People have skills. They have qualities that will make them effective. And effective doesn't mean that you have already reached African sovereignty. If you have already have reached African sovereignty, black sovereignty, liberation, then before you can be called an effective person, no wonder we haven't reached there. We have to identify leadership. So again, family, I'm gonna just go ahead and close it out on that one. I don't think anybody joined me this evening as it pertains to this particular episode. But I do thank you for your time. And let me see if I got any anything closing I want to say before I get out of here. Let me look at the comments before I get up out of here. Baba Ori Shabazz says, I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to be able to unpack ideas of leadership on this quality platform. I appreciate that, dear Baba. Shabaka, leadership is work, study, and building. Leadership is people working together to achieve goals. The people will judge the leadership abilities, set objectives and goals, and see who works. When we have a clearer lens on what leadership looks like, then we can choose quality leaders. If we merely say that we don't have leaders, we will always deal with what they give us. Family. I was going to read a closing, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to just get up out of here. I thank you. Thumb up this video, like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm open for this discussion. I thank you. I'm going to say those in the halls of DAW. DAW's lecture hall. That's the chat, y'all. In the halls of DAW. And those who I know are watching but will never see a thing, I appreciate you too. Though, that affirmation on the side and behind the scenes is definitely appreciative, because we need all the affirmation that you can get when we're fighting such a struggle. But family, affirm those leaders, affirm those people that are doing the work. I would say that even loosely, those qualities I mentioned in the scales that I read to you just a few minutes ago, couple that with Brother Imhotep, Bob Imhotep, couple that with what Dr. Asa G. Hilliard spoke about. He identified misleadership, but he also identified those who he called revolutionary leaders. Couple that with Amos Wilson identifying problematic leadership, and couple that even with Nelly Fuller and how he says that I don't agree with the idea that we don't have any leaders, but really understand his greater argument in conceptualization about how racism impacts us in all domains, because that's a serious conceptualization. And again, family, like, share, subscribe. It was my pleasure. Until next time, DAW signing out.
When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
If a generalized black woman is doing this and being this, that is irresponsible.
No, when you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
Showing me,
black and proud. Claim you're African, black and proud.
I think that if,
when you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back.
a page,
what is the status of people with half FBA?
When you claim you're African, you're going to get your mind back.
That's why I was laughing, because I am
claim you're African.
I'm not saying the framework doesn't do a thing, but
become a part of it.
We've been
embrace
Forward
it.
to black men
Become a
being the
part of it.
masters, being
Embrace
in
it.
control. We
Become a part of it.
Only
Embrace it.
That those one of the
Become a
best
part
stories I've
of
ever heard.
Embrace it. When you claim you're
have
African, you're
mastered
going to get your mind
that
back.
mental growth takes
Black
place.
and
You've
proud.
been misled by leadership,
Black
for
and
instance,
proud.
that
I'm
think
telling
you can consume.
When you claim you're Africanist, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you,